All right, here today, Darren Bruce. It's King and Smith here for Real Movement Project. Catching up with Darren Bruce, one of the original members of the Real Movement Level 3 program. Super excited to have him on today. His story is one that you're going to get a lot of value from. He's a guy who's done a lot in the last 12 months and a little bit beyond. And the future for him is super interesting. So looking forward to sharing his story. For those of you who haven't seen, I'm in Europe at the moment and there's some events coming up here. If you're interested in getting along to the German, Irish or Spanish events for level 1 or internship programs, make sure you get onto coachkeegan.com for those. Also, other news, realmovementproject.com is just about to go live. So looking forward to having you on there. There's a whole heap of new support and ideas to get your training and your life to the next level. So super excited about getting that one online. Thanks for coming on, Darren.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Awesome. So, for those who haven't sort of come across your work so far, Darren, can you just sort of tell us a little bit about, what you're doing at the moment, and then we'll go through your story of how we got to where you are now.
So I started a holistic health and fitness company called EMB Strategies. The EMB stands for Empower Mind and Body. So really where it differs is, I'm just like, we've got facilities and, training people in there, but really focusing on, making permanent, sustainable behavioral change. Like I really teaching them about, why they have failed in the past, and how they can change that, and really go beyond, temporary change or motivation. And when I say like go beyond motivation, my definition of what motivation is something that's temporary, that you constantly need an external sort of injection to keep going. So, we want to make people more inspired to take action on their health. When they connect it to the things that takes no time for them to do, then it becomes much easier. And, I've seen firsthand breakthroughs in that, where people just really get out of their own way, which, I'll probably talk about a bit.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously the psychology is a big part of what you do down there. Based in Canberra, correct?
Yep.
And go to a facility down there. Where exactly is it for guys who might want to come along or see your place down there?
Yeah. So the first facility in Canberra is in Phillip. So suburb just on the south side in 61 Dundas Court there.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, if we backtrack now, you've got this business, you've got a facility, you've got a training philosophy and a strategy to take it, take it to the world, take a message to the world that's based around behavioral change, and I guess then mixed together with the training side of it, with the physical action that also helps to get that result. So basically, you're talking about that training, that psychological side of what it takes to get the body and the mind that you want, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. If you get the mind right, the body will follow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So now, you've gotten to this point where you're running your own facility and you've got big plans for expansion. You've got staff underneath you. And how did you get to this stage? Let's track back a little bit to growing up, and what were the major influences on you sort of at that time? Was this on the radar from an early start or not?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think growing up, always played sport. Like I was into exercise. Before I could even walk, I was like hitting a golf ball across the living room with a tablespoon. I just pretty much, like, it's easy for me to see looking back that just any kind of physical movement I just wanted to learn.
Yep.
That was what I was just really naturally interested in. But then, going through sort of teenage years, I was very, probably like most teenagers, pretty lost and not really knowing what I was doing, and really lacking self-belief and confidence. And sort of thinking back on it, I'm really grateful that I had exercise and sport, and a huge enjoyment from doing pretty much any kind of sport. Like I've played so many different sports and been in different teams, individual or team sports. Like without that, probably life would have been a lot tougher growing up, and it still was pretty pretty tough for me at times. So yeah, no, I'd never really thought about starting a business back then. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, you know, everything was focused around sport. I always had a big goal to play with the best, and my main focus was rugby league and union at different times to like be at the top level. That really dictated, you know, even the like down to the actual school that I went to. Like I went to grade 11 and 12 of the college because they had a sports program there, a talented sports program, which I could, you know, potentially excel into, you know, the top team in the NRL, you know, that sort of stuff. So that was dictating everything I was doing. And then it was still always there. And, you know, on the work side of things, I did my personal training certificate, like when I left school, pretty much straight away when I was 17 or 18.
Yep.
But I still, like, I think it was like matched with the self-belief I had at the time. I was like, is this enough? Is this really what I want to do with myself? And didn't really know at all. And then, just like fast forward where I was still trying to make it and crack it in professional sport, and I've moved to Brisbane to do that. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to get, you know, at least playing the Queensland Cup, which is, you know, for anyone who knows, the level below the NRL. So that was really awesome. And
what position did you play?
So like I started off as wing when I was younger, but then when I was playing for those Queensland Cup sides, like I played wing, front row, centre, second row. So they'd sort of put me anywhere, pretty much. But mostly back row, moved to from there. So pretty a decent speed for a second rower.
Yep. So you were always into sport, and then you got yourself, you know, almost to that elite level in professional sport. When did you decide? When you realised that wasn't going to be the path you would follow?
Yeah, I had a couple of injury setbacks. Yeah. Which, you know, they took a few months to overcome. So
what did you have?
It was bursitis in the shoulder.
Okay.
So something that sort of just kept coming back a fair bit. It's pretty much missed more than half the season in a pretty like important sort of, I guess, looking back. Well, at the time, I thought it was a pretty important phase where, you know, I'm starting to get to about the age of 24.
Yeah.
I make a professional career of it. How much time am I going to have left? And I was in a club that just had a lot of talent as well. So, you know, there were people that would be playing top level in other clubs that were playing 3 grades down just because there was so much depth. So it was hugely challenging if you were injured, you were coming back through the lowest sort of echelon.
Yeah.
And then so I had those injuries. I actually had a probably really bad breakup as well. So that was pretty tough.
It's funny, it can often happen. The relationship problem comes, or the catalyst comes at a time when you need to change another area of your life. It was definitely a pivotal moment for me in a relationship that then pushed me to live in England, and that, you know, pushed me on a different path. That was my end to sport too. Pretty much happened around the same thing. You know, it's sometimes I guess it's meant to happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And combined with that, like while I was working along and I was doing, you know, odd jobs because, you know, in my head, I'm just getting by so I can crack it and do my best. And
did
really
you do a PT at that time?
I did. I was always sort of in and out of it. And when I was in these teams, like I would just be constantly like hounding the strength and conditioning coaches that were taking the sides about, you know, how they're programming, what they're doing. Yeah. Because aside from PT, I'd done like the strength and conditioning certificate level 1. So I had a clear interest. So I wasn't really doing one-on-one stuff there, but I was still sort of had always my head in the game and a bit of, you know, about performance of what we were doing and how the training was going down and stuff. So then pivotal moment, still doing nothing jobs, and then I met a guy who was in the military and found out about his job as a physical training instructor, and it was just one of those things where, you know, it was almost like a momentary. It took one moment to decide that was I wanted to do what he was doing.
Yeah.
And from the things that I've learned and researched about human behavior, now I understand that I really didn't think that I ever had a lot of leadership skills, and really what everyone's perceiving that they're missing most in that sort of growing up period, and that's really what they chase and they want to improve long term. And when I met him, he clearly had those skills and knew how to be a leader, and really coupled with teaching physical movement, learning more about it, that was just the dream job for me. So I met him, and then within a year and a half, I fast tracked through one of the fastest ever be promoted into that position from the first job you have to get in there, and was just hell bent on getting it. So he was kind of a mentor. And
how was that first year and a half in the army before you got into that role?
The first year and a half, I was just, especially, it's so evident that I just lacked leadership skills. I had no idea how to be a really effective leader, because when you've got your 10-week recruit period of joining the military, and I just they really challenge you and push you and put you in an environment where you're pushed out of your comfort zone, and you're pushed to be the best leader that you can be, or at least make an attempt to be a good example and a good leader to the people you're around. And I wasn't. I was doing the similar thing that I was doing when I was growing up, around that sporting dynamic environment. I would just sometimes, instead of leading by example, telling too much to do or that sort of stuff, I just didn't really know how to be a really good influence, so people could feed off that and get more out of it, and just be an effective leader in general. So that was really challenging, to the point where definitely times in that first 10 weeks where you just go, oh, when is this ever going to end? This is the hardest thing I've ever done. And it was at the time. And I think for a lot of people who have grown up with nothing to do with no family in the military before, or understanding what that's about, then that is, I think that would be the hardest thing for them to do, for sure. But at the same time, I have to say, so rewarding. And I know for sure now, the more challenging something is that you do, then the more rewarding, the more support that you get out of it.
Yep.
So, first 10 weeks was super, super challenging. And then, I went into an environment where I was in an infantry position, soldier job that I chose to do, because my mentor had just said, just do this job, you'll get to exercise and train while you're working towards, becoming a physical trainer, for the job you want. So and that was another thing where you went into 14-week training course with 95 hot-blooded males who were living under each other's, right under each other, within two little buildings. You got 95 guys, and the whole purpose of that training was really to weed out the sort of people that weren't good leaders, weren't mentally stronger, weren't able to really react immediately into jump straight into the mindset of being able to respond if you're getting attacked by the enemy, and all that sort of ridiculous amounts of soldier training, sleep deprivation, going out and just walking 10k with 30 kilos on your back, and just getting pushed and stretched.
Do you feel like that those physical challenges that you did then have a big impact on what you do now?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So, like I said, the business and where I differ is I know that mindset is everything. If you can literally take control of I think the first step is awareness of what's going on with you, self-awareness or self-actualization, as it can be called as well. So actually understanding, why these things happening in my life, what's my life demonstrating that I'm most interested in, all that sort of stuff. You can really carve your own path for your life and your direction. And then a lot of people I think I see now that are quite aimlessly wandering, don't really know, or even in the business, people I speak to say, I don't really know why I lose motivation. I need motivation. They don't really understand where they get that from, what inspires them, and they're supposed to. And I mean, they do deep down, but they're just telling themselves the story. Anyway,
what do you do to keep yourself? You've been in this business more than a year now. It shows that you've had you've been consistent, I guess, with your application. What is it that helps you to do that every day, to wake up every day and want to do what needs to be done?
So contribution. I firmly believe that everyone can make a difference in this world, and in regards to business, fulfillment, happiness, to the degree of how many people you help through your superpower, or your passion, or your purpose, whatever you want to call it, is how much happiness, fulfillment, success in business you're going to get. So the goal is to change 1 million lives through health through the business. The goal is to change 1,000 lives by January this year, and I know the business will do fine if I can help that many people, and that's all that matters, and that has to be more important than the money for the business. So that's a massive thing that drives me. We can all contribute more to make the world a better place. If we're all thinking that way, then everything's going to be better if we stop thinking about all the negative that's going on.
What about for all those personal trainers out there who maybe just sometimes when I have the seminars, level 1, people introduce themselves and they'll say, I'm just a personal trainer. I work out of XYZ, chain. I'm just a personal trainer. What can they do to feel more like what you're talking about?
Yeah, I just want to quickly give a good example because I think this might help.
Yep.
12 years ago when I became a personal trainer and I had my first job in a gym, I was getting up at 5 in the morning to do morning walking the floor and that sort of stuff, and I hated it. I wasn't a morning person. I was the most grumpy person in the morning.
Not the best time to be looking for clients then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and wanted to have a conversation with people. I just, back when I was that age, you'd get one word out of me in the morning. I was just trying to get through the morning so I can wake up, by 10 or 11 a.m. So I wasn't inspired to do that at all. I wasn't interested in it. And the big thing that's changed, man, is just understanding what are the gifts that I have to give? What are the things that I learn about that I can teach other people, that it doesn't take me any effort to go and learn about that? And that's, helping people through physical movement, helping people through health, greater leadership, influencing others in a positive way for them to find out how they can be more inspired in their gifts. So, I did that by reading about certain people that were doing that, and that was what completely changed things for me. So, I have no problems getting up at 5 in the morning, which I do majority of the weekdays in weeks now, because... So I guess what I'm getting at is I was thinking on a logical sense, and I'm sure that those people that got up and said that I'm just a personal trainer are too busy thinking on a logical level, on a level of the brain, where we know that, if you're, we talk about the coaching all the time, if you can get the buy-in from the client, from the athlete, from whoever, then everything, results will come so much more because they've bought into what you're actually saying. And the buy-in, by definition, is you've got to change their heart and mind. So when you connect to something emotional, that's the driver. So, something positive, emotional that really moves them to action, everything else is a breeze. So you need to make that connection. And I see it all the time with people that want to lose weight. If they don't have that emotional and psychological shift, then nothing changes because they've created it themselves. They ate the food, they put themselves in that shape, they didn't exercise because they're not emotionally connected to how, their greater health is going to benefit the other things in their life, how it's going to be better. So, and until they can actually consciously recognize and see that or visualize that, another thing, then nothing's going to change. So it's exactly the same thing with any goal for a PT. Have a look forward to the end of your life. What do you want to have achieved? If you're a personal trainer now and you actually are passionate, that's the job that you're supposed to be doing, then part of what you want to do throughout your life is actually help people get to a certain level of performance, lose weight or something like that, and really hone down exactly how you want to help people. And if that's not part of your vision of your life, then get out of it. Don't just go into a job just because you thought it was going to pay well, or you can do it. Make sure that you have passion behind it, because if there's no passion behind it, then your best career and your best fulfillment and happiness isn't behind it either.
100%.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
So when you were going through that time as in the army, did you have that same kind of connection to your role as a physical training officer? In that role, were you fully connected to that at that time, or did you know it was a stepping stone to your own business, to whatever was going to come next?
It was a couple of things. Like, I had plans of the location that I wanted to get, and as most people might know, in the military, you don't really get to choose where you go. And I got sent to a certain location that it wouldn't have been my first option. And so, I think within a 4-month period of actually, getting sent out from doing, we do a 6-month course where you become qualified, that, I don't know, around that period, or maybe even before, I'd always had this sort of deep sort of thing that I wanted to do a business, like start a business.
Yeah.
And yeah, like as soon as I got into the role, it just wasn't enough for me. It wasn't going to continuously be challenging. Like, in saying that, for doing it for a year and a half or 2 years, it was so awesome to continuously develop those leadership skills and, be put in that environment where you have to be the person that is a great influence. And, I would never change a thing. No regrets. Like, I learned so much, and even things that I implement now in the business, whether that's actually within training or actually, being able to get people to their goals, to a permanent change of health. So it must have been those first few months. And then, I just started reading and researching things, on really getting more specific and in touch with, like, what I was most passionate about, like why, what's going on in my life, where's the direction going. Like, I've always been fascinated with why people do what they do, and I wanted to know more why I do what I do. And then, the deeper I delved, then it really just naturally sort of started to form the vision of the business, of how I could make a bigger difference. And I couldn't do that in the military. And, when they asked me why I was leaving, because they didn't really understand, I said so I can help more people. And they did think I was crazy and thought I was going to fail, because I've had no business experience before I jumped straight out of that job into the business, or no money.
So yeah, you went from, like, I guess it's the ultimate kind of safety job. Most people don't have very safe jobs now. It used to be, get a job when you were 18 or 16, get an apprenticeship and finish that when you were 65 or 55 or somewhere around there, whichever age we're talking about, time period in history. Recent history, that's how it was. It's become a more uncertain jobs market, but I guess in the army, once you're in, it kind of feels like, well, yeah, this is really safe. The check's there every week. I know how life works. It must be really difficult for guys to break away from that, to the uncertainty of even just looking for a job, let alone starting your own business.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely do believe that a lot of people become institutionalized, and I guess what I mean by that is just that, you're safe, you're comfortable, you're getting a good paycheck, you're having a good time. Obviously, in the military, they want to create a very, very strong environment, because they're going to have to work in some of the most challenging conditions that you can think of. And in that strong environment, you're going to create, you're going to find friends when you go through those tough times of challenge and growth. So, it's a big family. So it's a tough thing to pull out and get away from. And, taking a leap of faith of going and doing something yourself, starting a business or getting out of the military, that means more responsibility. And most people are shit scared of that.
What pushed you to actually go and just tell them at work, I'm getting out? Because obviously there's a period after that as well, isn't there, where you sort of stay on for a while and then they let you go.
Yep. So I set myself a date with all the stuff that I was reading and the vision that I was starting to form of the business and how it was going to happen, how it was going to affect change. I set myself a date of when I'd actually start it. So I had a deadline, and it was actually the same date that I would have that I did finish exactly 4 years in the military, which is what I had to complete and do. And I was just, it's funny looking at that and setting that date. If I hadn't set that date and it happened on that date, I'd be saying, oh, everything just fell into place, and then that was the date that I started. But it's quite clear to me that because I set that date, I hustled harder, I made things happen, I made everything meet and connect just enough to start the business right on that same date. So, I guess it's the same thing with, talk about those SMART goals: specific, measurable, accurate, results-based, and time. If you don't, the less specific you are, then you're just going to float along, and it literally drives you to make more progress faster, which is obviously, a great thing about the Real Movement project as well, for that accountability. I guess that was more so me just holding myself accountable by setting that date and really locking onto it.
100%. So, yeah, what were your influences at that time? What were you reading, and who were you listening to? How did you sort of get your head around that business?
Yep. I met a business coach in Brisbane. He recommended some books to listen to. I went and read them straight away. So, Dr. John DeMartini, who's a human behavioural specialist, he's also researched the most successful business people in the world. So he has information on human behaviour.
Was it Breakthrough Experience? That's one of the ones that sort of pushed me into a business as well. That was one of the key ones for me a couple of years ago. In France, I was reading it actually, I think. And then it was gradually building while I was at the Roosters that I was going to do what I'm doing now. Yeah,
that was definitely it. Yeah. Some really, really powerful messages in that book of just really understanding on the most basic level of how people work, like quantum physics, that sort of stuff. And that was the first one, and then I just got into everything of his, and I'd highly recommend, if it doesn't matter who you are, read his stuff, because there's just so much to get out of it.
Yeah. So
Brendan Bouchard as well.
Yeah.
Millionaire Messenger was a book that I read. So
yeah.
That was good in breaking down really quickly and simply, at least getting a better idea of if I was gonna create a service or product. What would it be?
Yep.
And that got a bit more specific, which is good.
Yep.
There's a lot of others. Delivering Happiness by Tony Zai, who started Zappos. Do you know who he is?
I've heard of him, but I haven't read that book. Yeah.
So he's started the first online shopping for shoes, I think it was. So it blew up online, and he's really massive on company culture, and talks about how he started that business from scratch. He's even got a chief happiness officer as well as a CEO, so it's pretty cool. I think his office is similar to the Google office you hear about. People go and do tours, and it's pretty awesome. But there's a quote in his book of that, which is really good. That really stuck with me. And at the time, I just got an awesome business mentor who was Entrepreneur of the Year in Australia in 2013. And quote was envision, so EN, vision, envision and create, your, what you want to do, and the universe will form it around you. And that was, I was like, shit, that's on the money. So I believe that, so that's what I'm going to do. Can you hear my dog barking? She's crawled under the couch.
Yeah, she's
very strange. So Tony's Eye, even like things like, obviously you're going to get to a point if you run a business, you're going to need employees if you want to grow. He's got some awesome insights into, some of the questions they ask to, like, really hire the right kind of people, because customer service is their absolute priority in their company. And
yeah.
I think one of the questions they ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy would you call yourself? And they say if someone answers a 1 or a 10, they don't hire them. But if they say just a little bit crazy, then they know they can sort of be themselves when they're on the phone and talking to the customer. So they're creating an authentic experience. He sort of takes you through some of those conversations as well. It's pretty cool, and they got awesome feedback. And some of the best customer service in the world, which is why it's so highly renowned.
Did you use some of that in the process of looking for your staff there?
Yeah, I used some DeMartini stuff, so some human behaviour stuff, to make sure that there were common interests within, like, what my vision of the business is to help change people's lives through health, and like how that's going to benefit the employees. Like if they don't connect with that, like they're never going to value it more than I do, because it's my vision, my unique sort of idea of a business. But if they can really see how it's going to benefit them, then I think that's a massive thing. If they can't, then you probably have a lot more issues, because it's just like everything they do in the business for you, they're not really getting much out of it,
100%. So from there, I guess we had your progression. You started the business. How was it in finding, your first 5 or 10 clients and just getting the thing off the ground?
Just hang on 1 sec, man. I just got to plug the computer in.
I got the same thing.
Yeah.
Can't plug yours in, but
yeah, that'd be great.
go. Rookie error.
Yeah, I know. Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, getting your place started and getting your first members. How was that?
Yeah, so first members. Well, I started a Facebook page before I actually knew what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
And then I just, that was about 4 months before, things were going to kick off for the business. So I just started, I had guidance from my mentor at the time, business mentor, and I just started hyping things up and just sort of putting on there on Facebook, on social media, different social media platforms of what I was going to do and what was going to start. And I also started, just training people for free as well.
I remember seeing a lot of those ads and sessions for those morning sessions, and I remember seeing that you had those events on a number of times.
Oh, yeah.
The free ones. And it was. Yeah. How important was that stuff to then opening your doors and getting started?
Yeah, it was massive. People need to know who you are in order to find you or whatever. You need to get a taste of you. So yeah, that was really big, and I'm really I've still got one one lady who's been with me from the very start, from those actual sessions.
The free sessions, yeah, cool.
The rope runs up the mountain and stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So how many members you've had a growth then since that stage you've built the business up to the stage where you're off to Monte Carlo next week to learn more about how to develop your business with the winning international guys. What have been the key things once I guess that was the key to getting off the ground, and then how have you managed to grow it to the point where you're starting to really expand your vision and look at the next phase?
Work. So it doesn't feel like work to me, which makes it so much easier. So I guess the way I can say that the reason I've grown it is because I've just, I know what my strengths are, and so I've just surrounded myself with the people I need to continue to grow the business and help more people. So that's what I've been doing. As you said, the winning international guys have been awesome, have been a massive part of that, just developing the business and being able to help more people. So, and just constantly still always educating myself on how things can be better, how we can really get through to more people to make a change in their health. And I think the business has grown as well because I've never been so certain that contribution is the key to, like I said this before, business success or fulfillment, that sort of stuff. And I really focus on that. I'm catching up with cerebral palsy Australia tomorrow, and I think I'll be doing what's that TV show that was what is it, the the guy from Yellow Brick Road, Mark Burrows?
Yeah. The Apprentice?
Yeah. So they have like a celebrity apprentice charity event that the cerebral palsy are going to do. So I think I'm going to do that, and we're going to try and raise maybe 20 or 30K or something like that. And so I did some charity work last year. We raised almost $1,000 for St Vincent de Paul for sort of homeless people and that sort of stuff. And I think that's part of the growth of the business. Like when you give back like that, or you do initiatives like that, then people realise that it's not about the money, and it isn't. It's about how we can make more of a difference. And so I think that's been part of the growth as well.
Yep. Awesome. So you recently, I know you're big on self-development and education. You recently spent some time with a very wealthy person in an effort to expand your mind and your vision around money. We're talking about, money isn't why we do this stuff. Contribution and making a difference, that's really what it's about. But I guess the process for both of us in this, we've gone into this in a similar kind of stage, I guess, to building a business. Like, is it okay to take money off people? Is there something wrong with taking people's money and the exchange that happens, with that? How does that meeting with a very wealthy man, how does that influence your attitude towards making money from what you do?
Exactly what I just spoke about. If you have the right intentions, then the world is your oyster in regards to making money. And the reason that I chose him was because firstly, so we had this chat about philanthropy and charity and giving to charities, and he wrote a check for $400,000 and gave it to a charity for the Middle East to help hungry people and provide medical support for people who just because they can't get basic cataracts and those sorts of things they can't see, and from a simple operation that in the Western world you'd probably be able to get through health insurance, whatever, you'd be able to see again. So gave that money to charity, and then sort of found out from the people that he knows that only 5% really hits the ground and gets to those people. So as a result, he actually went to Pakistan, which is where he spent the first 2 years of his life, and actually bought a farm, and allowed the farmers to actually, create crops, make a business from actually farming in that area, on one simple condition that the money would go back towards their children's education. And he helped feed 100,000 people last year in that way. So, we talked about contribution and how that's a direct reflection of business success. So
he still has the land there?
Yeah, he still has the land there, yeah.
Very
He's done
cool.
a TEDx talk on it as well, so if anyone wants to see it, his name is Com Mirza, C-O-M, last name's M-I-R-Z-A, so you just search that on TED Talks, and he takes you through the process of how he scaled that to actually get, more money and more assistance on the ground, because it just wasn't happening.
Yep. Awesome.
So we spoke a lot about that, and even, you know, he's talking about how he has chats with his accountant, and you know, when he donates money or he sets something up through business to give back, his accountants will see things as black and white, liabilities and assets. So he would see that as a liability if it was income taking. But he said to me, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I know that that is an asset because he's been, you know, he sits around a bunch of billionaires, and you know, we told me this story about how, you know, the first time he was sitting around billionaires in a room, and you know, he was really excited because he's just thinking, you know, I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars and I'm still the dumbest person in the room, and you know, have the least amount of money. And he was really keen to see, you know, what billionaires talk about, what's conversation they have, and he thought that it would be about business and making money. And majority of the things they spoke about were all the charities they're involved in, how they're giving back, because they know the secret to, you know, making more money, and it's giving more. So, you know, the most richest people in the world, Bill Gates gave $35 billion away, which made him go from the richest man in the world to something like the 7th richest person in the world, because he didn't care with all his initiatives in third world countries. Within a very short period of time, Warren Buffett, you know, Warren Buffett allows him to invest in exactly the same things that he follows. He made the $35 billion back, went straight back to the richest person in the world. You know, so he gets it. You get it straight back. But I think for most people, they don't actually experience, well, first, the fulfillment of actually contribution on a scale like that. That, you know, it's more than the money. They can't really get past that because in our society, like, money is everything. So the hardest thing for people to do is actually give money away when they actually get it. So that's what stops them from contributing more. And for these guys, they know it's the key to, you know, being happy. It's the key to life, to actually give back through, you know, what your strengths are, and they're doing that, and they're being rewarded for it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about, you know, where you see this going, you know, how your future and the future of EMB, and where, you know, where things are going to get to over the next, you know, few years, few decades, you know, however far you want to take it.
Yeah, so like I said, the goal is to change 1,000 lives by January 2016, start next year. So, you know, within the next month, I'll be putting out an online product, which will just be going out there to, you know, teach people, you know, on an individual basis first, figure out, you know, where they're at with their lifestyle and their routine, and how food plays a part in that at the moment, and individually break it down for them so it's something that they suit, and teach them how to make a permanent, sustainable change, which is just, like, I can't stress how much different that is to a fad diet that you would get, or a meal plan or something. So, you know, they'll be provided full support to create that lifestyle change, and given guidance with the exercise to do that can help their, you know, their physical goals as well. And, you know, I think it would definitely contain some of that, some of the mindset teaching that I know, because, you know, it's everything. If they can understand that more, and if they can be more inspired, then it's going to be so much easier for them to make those food changes when they know how it's going to benefit those things that they value very highly. So, yeah, I'm going to put that out, and yeah, the goal is to get 1,000 people in that by January this year. Well, you know, I think we're at about 100 people helped with, you know, a significant tangible change in their life through the first facility. So, yeah, looking forward, that's the main focus at the moment, and just you know, that program is going to be world class. Make sure it is. So, yeah, and then looking ahead, you know, in the future, definitely want to have.
I think you're gone.